I'm chain smoking loud, like it's a Newport. Dad wasn't around. My father figure was too short. Now, those are lyrics from a hip hop artist that goes by the name of Tawheed Epps. His hip hop moniker is Two Chains. And these lyrics were recorded, I believe, in 2012. I didn't go check the reference or the song or anything like that. But that's going to be the topic of today's episode. My dad wasn't around. Father figure was too short. This is a real life experience topic. This is just some real talking. This is for my fatherless boys out there. This one's for the fatherless. And if you decide to continue watching this, I thank you, because out of all the music and interviews and reviews that I do, this is what the Cool Hand podcast is about. We're going to incorporate some music into life experience, and I hope y'all rock with it, because this one's gonna mean a lot to me. Now, with lyrics like that, he talked about smoking, and then talks about dad wasn't around. My father figure was too short. Now I don't really listen to Too Short. I heard some old Bay Area music, some old Too Short back when he was skinnier and stuff like that from the '90s. But it's about the concept of things, of being raised by something else when your father wasn't around, and that's what this episode is about. It's about growing up without a father, and where other influences that shaped my personality and maybe somebody else's personalities may have come from, if it's not coming from that male figure that's traditionally in a household. So you're going to get to know me a little bit in this episode, and the point isn't just to talk about myself, but more so, if there's anybody out there who can relate to me, they would know that maybe they could feel this one. So let's start from the beginning. My dad was around my life a little bit. Now, my parents got divorced when I was 9 years old. They were separated for a bit. Uh, we lived in different places while they were separated, and I lived with my mother. My brother and I lived with my mother very appropriately. She was my mom. She was my caretaker, and they divorced when I was 9. So that doesn't necessarily mean he was in my life all 9 years. I didn't have a great 9 years with having a two-parent household. So even some of the memories that I have of my father are very, I don't have a lot of great memories, or even good memories for that matter, of my own biological father. And I like to say biological father because I'll talk about this a little later. The concept of family to me is, because of the way that I came up and some of my experiences, the word family doesn't mean too much to me when it comes to blood relatives. We'll get into that later. But my biological father, I remember playing basketball with the dude. In an area called Wilkinsburg, here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's one of my only good memories of dude. And although I don't have many good memories of my father in those first 9 years of living, it doesn't mean that it was bad either. He was there, but he was absent. He was there in a physical sense. He was alive, but that was pretty much it. That was it for the guy. He worked at night. He would be asleep during the day. I'd be with my mom. You know what I'm saying? So that was the dynamic of that relationship. And they got divorced when I was 9. And I'm thankful that I wasn't, abused in any way by the dude. But he just wasn't there. And not being there, as I'm 28 years old, and when I'm able to reflect on certain things, I often am left questioning, would things be different if I had an active father in my life, if my biological father stayed in my life? So that's the type of tip that I'm on right now, and that's what I'm gonna continue talking about. So he wasn't there. He wasn't there physically present. The one memory was playing basketball, and I remember, shooting a hoop And I was dropping buckets this day. I had to be around like 7 years old, dropping buckets like Lil Bow Wow and like Mike. And that's one of the only good memories I have. I remember we lived in a townhouse, and I wrote "Get Out" on pieces of paper down the stairwell. We lived in like a townhouse, so going down the stairs, I'm writing "Get Out," "We don't want you here," like putting it on the wall. And I didn't get whooped for that. I would understand getting whooped, getting beat. Maybe he felt guilty. I don't know. But that's another memory that I have of writing "Get Out." And then after my parents were divorced, we spent one day with him post getting divorced, or while they were in the middle of getting divorced. And we were at his new apartment, and my brother and I were watching 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying movie. So so that's what we were doing over my dad's house. Cool. But in his absence, and with my mother raising us, and she didn't raise us wrong. I remember there was a certain point in Georgia rather. We're talking to somebody who studied the Bible with us, and he revealed that my mom said some things like, I can't teach them how to be men. That will always stick with me, and that's why I'm talking about it today. Like, I can't teach these boys how to be men. And maybe, I'm sure a mother or someone else can teach a young man or whatever how to be a nice, respectful, responsible, caring, loving man. But when I put myself in my mom's shoes, she was going through a lot. She was going through a whole lot, and it's not easy to be a parent. I know it's not easy to be a parent, and I'm not a parent myself. But in his absence, being a young knucklehead, my brother and we were both young knuckleheads. We hung out with friends and stuff like that. Music took the place of our father being in our lives. And I'll speak for my brother and myself. Music, our associations, and the kids at school, those are not how we were raised in conjunction with my mother, but a lot of those influences, the things that speak to you, are the things that you attach yourself to. Having somebody, care for you, my mom having a responsibility as a parent to do certain things. It's not like me and my mom like had everything in common at, 9, 10, 11 years old. I was listening to 50 Cent, G Unit, The Game, Nas, Cassidy. Did I say Jadakiss already? And I was beefing with Jadakiss at the time. You know why? Because 50 Cent raised me. I was beefing with Jadakiss because 50 Cent was beefing with Jadakiss. I was beefing with, and it hurt me. It hurt me so bad that I had to beef with Nas. But I was beefing with Nas because 50 Cent was beefing with Nas. Now, when 50 Cent started beefing with Game, I couldn't start beefing with Game because Game was nice. But the point of me saying all of this is, and that's not to say that Kiss and the Locks and Nas wasn't nice, because Nas is one of my favorite rappers of all time. But anyway, I was torn because Game was a part of G Unit. Then he got kicked out of G Unit and they started beefing. So it hurt me to the core. I might have been 11 or 12 at the time when they started beefing. It hurt. It hurt. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, I'm listening to that. And also Eminem at the time. Eminem was on fire. Like these early 2000s, Eminem was like the man. He was like up there in terms of like popularity and being on the radio and things like that. So we're not going to discredit Eminem because he was definitely doing his thing too at the time. But this is what I was exposed to. This is what I was listening to. And later on, like things like the Chappelle Show came out. There was like bootleg DVDs of the Chappelle Show floating around, even in school. I think I was in like 6th grade when we got our copy of like a bootleg DVD of the Dave Chappelle Show. And then you had the Bernie Mac show was on. So when it comes to things that shaped my personality, things that shaped certain aspects of myself, when I think about comedy, certain sarcastic comedy, we watch The Office, those type of things. Like I credit certain personality traits of mine to those things that I was listening to and watching to and watching growing up, especially like the comedic things. Like Bernie Mac was hilarious to me even as a young boy, just the show. The Chappelle Show was hilarious to me as a young boy, just the show. I didn't even understand everything, but the way, like, his mannerisms and his delivery, Dave Chappelle's delivery on the show, it was funny even if I didn't even understand everything, because that was like an adult show. So in place of having that father figure, entertainment took that took that took place of that. And that just makes me think of another thought of how entertainers say, like, we are not role models. We are not role models. When I was 8 years old, when I was 9 years old, when I was 10, 11, 12, you couldn't tell me Snoop Dogg wasn't a role model. You couldn't tell me 50 wasn't a role model. You couldn't tell me Cat, because they were my role models for real. Like, I know my mom ain't even want me listening to no rap music, honestly, but I was a little young boy. When I'm at school on the computer, my mom's not there. She's probably counting on me to do the right thing, or to obey her, but that wasn't happening. So it's crazy when I hear like these people of status or celebrities like, we're not role models. We're like, I get what they mean, but at the end of the day, like, these people are going to play a role model figure for people. And it's not like I had a horrible upbringing. It's not like it was rough, but come on, people have it way worse, way worse. The point of this isn't to say that I had like some horrible upbringing and all this other stuff. People have it bad out here. Facts. I know people have it bad, worse. Things that you can't even imagine happening in their lives. And and people find, and these young kids like myself found refuge. I was 8 years old saying, many men wish death upon me, blood in my eyes, dog, and I can't see. I'm trying to be what I'm destined to be, and people trying to take my life. I was 8 years old, but that song was so nice. The song was so fire. Like, I just, you just felt it. So anyway, that entertainment factor and what Tawheed Epps was saying was just so true. It's such a simple line. It could have been a filler line just for him to rhyme Too Short and Newport together, but it's facts. And somebody like me latches on to lyrics like that. It's very powerful. And even in that line, like, I don't really listen to Too Short. Like, shout out to the Bay Area and hyphy music and what do they call riding scrapers? I don't know the Bay Area lingo, but like, no little kid should be listening to Too Short. So even when you break down a lyric like that way, it's like, my values came from music that can be derogatory, and when you don't have that figure in your life, kids are going to do what kids are going to do. But when you come from a disciplined home, a disciplined family, and things like that, I think I've seen it happen. Like, my friends, the majority of my friends have both their parents in their lives. And I know these cats come from good homes. They have good homes and good values. And would I say I'm jealous? I would say I'm jealous. I would say I'm like, not like a not like envy, like I want your dad and y'all want you to have a dad. No, like, I wish I had my pops in my life, like my biological father in my life. Johnny who's been on the show, I call him Pops. This is some real talk. I call him Pops because he's been like a father to me. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't want anything more but to have, how do I say this? I would have loved for my father to be in my life. I think about some of the things I've gotten into as I have grown. We had moved to Georgia when I was in 8th grade. I'm going to give some experiences now on when I look back at them, if having a father would have altered the outcome of certain things. We moved to Georgia in 2007 or 2008. I believe it was like October 2007. Because 2008 I started high school. So yeah, 2007, and my brother and I didn't want to go. Our friends were up here, so on and so forth. But my mom, we got away from the snow. We got away from It's kind of like a new start, I would imagine, for my mom. And we were some young boys, and we had no friends. It wasn't really happening for us, and I found friends in the wrong people. One of the people I found friends in is no longer here. It's sad. It's sad when I think about it. Like when I found out that one of my homies from down south died by way of gunshot. You know, like it's messed up because you remember, doing hanging with these people, chopping it up with these people, seeing that this dude who died, he had heart. I remember we was out in school and one of my other homeboys acquired some type of beef outside of school with these other dudes. This big dude comes out. We're at lunch. This big dude comes out. Mind you, I really had no business hanging with the people I was with because I'm not I'm not from the street. I'm not from no type of hood. You know what I mean? But I was just with the people I was with. And this big dude comes up looking for one of my guys, looking for one of my homies. He's like, is you so and so? Now, my now deceased homeboy from down south wasn't having that. Like he saw somebody was coming for his man, and he sized up big boy. I hope this is making sense to other people. So one homie stood up for another homie. And that's just how solid that's how solid he was. And I remember seeing my man. I was bigger than my man who was standing up for my other man. And he was sizing up like he was ready to go. And he knew dude too. So he was willing to scrap this big dude that he already knew for another man's, for one of his homies' problems. And that was the type of person he is. And it's just sad to see, you know, he might have had criminal ways as he got older, but it's just sad to see somebody who had that type of heart and things like that just, not be able to live, end up dying in his early 30s. It's messed up. But anyway, but I'm hanging with people like that. That's one of, the people I'm hanging with, and some of the things that I got into with them, nothing crazy or nothing like that. But if my dad was in my life, and if I and the vision that I have, like what I'm imagining, the father that I would have wanted to have, if he was in my life, like, boy, if you don't, like, what's wrong with you, would have gripped me up by my collar, like, what's wrong with you? You want to hang with, you want to be stupid, you want to go to jail, you want to do some dumb stuff like that. You know what I mean? If I had somebody to yank me up by my collar, somebody to put some fear in me, you know what I'm saying? Like somebody to put some fear in me, somebody to say, boy, if you don't knock it out, I'm gonna knock you out. Not that, it's nice for a father to do that or whatever, but I could have used that. I could have used some real fear because my mom didn't scare me. My mother didn't scare me. I love my mom, but I gave my mom problems. Me and my brother gave my mom problems. And I regret it. I think it was in 2015 or 16. I'm up in Pittsburgh, and I remember I called my mom crying because it was just hitting me on how much I put my mom through. Like, I'm sorry. I hate myself for it. Like, to this day, I hate that I put my mom through stuff because as a child, you don't know what your parents are going through because it's none of your business. They're taking care of you. So you don't know everything that's on your mom's mind, your mom or dad's mind. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know what type of, come on, man. We didn't, I wanted to be on Snap growing up. I wanted to be on Snap. And this is the messed up thing. Not having that pops in our lives, it messes up the family dynamic for us. It messed up the family dynamic. But even monetarily, as a married man, I can attest to two incomes are better than one. Two incomes are better than one. I'll say that one more time. Two incomes is better than one. I'll tell you that. Like, we live in a small apartment now, but honestly, if we didn't have two incomes, who knows how half the stuff you see here probably wouldn't be there. Honestly, Like half like the stuff that I see that that I use for the podcast probably wouldn't be here. I probably wouldn't be recording on a nice camera like this if we didn't have two incomes coming in. So like, it was rough. Like and I would see people. I had a homeboy named Andre who had a SNAP card. It was an access card for food stamps, for those who don't know. And he would go to this little corner store that was near our apartment complex before school. Hot Cheetos, Little Debbie's. Andre was fat. Hot Cheetos, Little Debbie's, Huggies, and he bought it all on this card. And I'm like, I remember telling my mom, like, hey, like Andre has this green card that he just gets snacks on. Like are young kids having debit cards? Found out it was the, government assistance, SNAP, food stamps, whatever it's called. And I'm like, why can't we have that? I wanted to be on SNAP for years. I wanted to be on food stamps for years because my mom was taking care of us. If anybody out there who rents knows, rent is highway robbery. You're paying for, you're renting. You are renting. You get services provided to you, but at the end of the day, you're paying a lot of money for a unit, and rent ain't cheap. She eventually moved us into a 3-bedroom versus a 2-bedroom, so my brother and I didn't have to share a room as we got older and have our own privacy and our own space. And rent isn't cheap. I'm a grown man now. I'm a grown man, and I see what these 3 bedrooms is like. There wasn't much money for everything else when she was taking care of everything, the bills, the food. We ended up getting a car because we was taking a bus everywhere. We ended up getting a car. So she has these car payments now. When I'm looking back on everything, my mom had to do a lot. I at a certain point, I didn't know we was messed up financially. One time, a bunch of friends dropped some food off at our crib, and I just thought they was being nice. Turns out we was just broke. I'm like, we were over here receiving stimulus packages. I thought people was just being nice. I remember my mom was sick, and she gave me and my brother money to go to Wendy's. She gave it to us in quarters. We was paying for like $5 meals in quarters. It was our laundry money. Like, you look back at that, I'm like, really, Mom? Like, you really had to do that for us? So you really got to love your mothers. You got to love your parents because they do a lot for you. I wonder if things would go a certain way if Dad was around, if Dad was in our lives. And I got into not a lot of trouble, but enough trouble and enough pain when we moved down to Georgia, when I felt like I had nobody. Me and my brother started beefing. My own biological brother started beefing, and not the type of beef that people say, oh yeah, me and my sister hated each other when we were young. Now we're the best of friends. No, we was things that we had problems that aren't going to be mentioned on on air because him and I had real problems, and it took a long time to repair our relationship. So, and once again, would my brother be acting the way he did? Would I be acting the way that I did? Would my brother and I be beefing? Would we be so disrespectful to each other in our household if we had that male figure? If we had a real man, a real positive male figure in our lives, I say things would have went a little different. I think things would have went different. Things would have went different. They had to. Nobody could sit around and let the stuff that was going on fly. And it's hard not to hold resentment. It's a lot of it's like an internal battle with me because I just want to be angry, and I have to control that because I just reflect on life and I don't want to say that man, but I wish he was the father he was supposed to be. I haven't seen dude in 13 years. The last time I saw him was once when I was 15. We was up for a visit in Pittsburgh, and I saw him once, and that was it. And after that, I haven't seen him since. I'm 28 now. I see people, I see young boys and their dads at the grocery store, and I might see the dad, I might see the pops talking to their son, or like have a little joke with his son or his daughter or anything like that. And I look at it and smile. I look at it and I smile because I'm like, good for you. I shouldn't have to say good for you. I shouldn't have to say good job to a dad for being a dad. But the reason why I say good job to a dad for being a dad is because some dads don't do what dads are supposed to do. So you got to say good job, or I'm proud of you, or man, it's good to see him, taking care of his son. It's good to see him joking around with his son. I have to say that, even though it shouldn't be said. For me, at least, like a dad does what a dad's supposed to do. You're supposed to, but like I said, I'm not going to repeat myself. I look at it and I smile, and it's kind of like a wistful feeling, because it's like, wow, like it's like it's like, man, that's so nice. And then you think about yourself. Like, I can't help but like, man, I wish I had that. I wish I got like piggyback rides when I was a young boy. I wish, we did this or we did that. Like in personalities, I can't stop stressing this. Personalities are shaped. I can look at one of my friends and say, oh, he looks like his dad, or not looks like him, but more so acts like his dad. Or their dad might have a saying, and the offspring uses that saying. And it's like, oh, they got that from their dad. Like they got that from their mom or their dad. I got that from Chappelle. I got that from Martin. I got that from the Fresh Prince. I got that from The Office. And there ain't nothing wrong with it, but it is what it is when it comes to that. And when I think about some things, how I graduated from school, I moved back to Pittsburgh, I went to school, graduated that school, got a career, married my wife, who is a wonderful woman, and he don't know anything about that. I feel like Will Smith in that episode of The Fresh Prince, when his pops came back around briefly, and Will Smith was like, I did all this without him. He's like, I got to, I came here, I went to school, I got accepted into LA, boo, woo, woo. I had a basketball shot, and I got pretty good at that shot, ain't I? I did this, I'm going to have a big old family, and I'm going to be there for my kid, because that's in marriage, you face challenges. And there was nobody there. I can't call my dad on the phone. Even when I was dating my wife, my now wife, I couldn't call him on the phone. I couldn't be like, woo, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling that way. What should I do? Woo woo. Like I couldn't do that. I never could do that. I got a lot of love. I know that I'm loved. I got a lot of people who love me, but it is not easy to open up to another man. There's positive male influences in my life, but it's not easy to open up to another man like that. Pause. To open up emotionally, to open up how you really feel. It's not easy for me. It's not. It's like overcoming a barrier. Say I love you to your dads, men. Tell your dads that you love them. Tell your dads that you love them. Tell your moms that you love them too. Tell your moms that you love them. And it is what it is. I think I'm gonna stop now, but I think the basis of this, the point of me having this whole episode was, for my fatherless boys out there like me, that, when dad wasn't around, there's always something else that replaces him in one way or another. I did not have a horrible upbringing. I didn't go knee deep in the streets. I didn't have to go to jail. At a certain point in my life, I thought the path I'm going, I'm probably going likely end up in like some type of juvenile. I was a young boy, so all my homies was going to the juvenile joint and coming out. But something always replaces it, and you think about crime. You think about what's going on in the streets. You think about these young boys who get pistols tossed to them by older dudes. Now, it's not always foolproof. Not all these boys in the streets and not all these dudes who are making bad decisions are fatherless. But I know for myself, if somebody at a certain point, if somebody wanted to pass me a pistol to hold on to, if somebody influenced me to hold something for him, I would probably do it. I probably would have done it. I likely would have done it. I would have done it. Like, so, like, these people, there's not that male influence, that father figure, that father or father figure, or step pops or nothing like that. I'm done. This episode's over. I've said too much. I just wanted to speak on that. I've been wanting to do this episode for a long time, and that's it. This is the Cool Hand Podcast. We'll have some more experiences, maybe not as deep, but this is one of the ones that I really wanted to speak on. Thankfully I have amazing people. Let me end off on a good note. I do have amazing people in my life, an amazing congregation. But there's nothing like that dad. There's nothing like having your dad. And the last thing that I'm going to say is, that's what I meant to say. My view of family is skewed. The word family does not mean too much to me, unfortunately. As time goes on, it's starting to regain its meaning for me, my attitude toward family, because some of the things that I went through, along with my father not being in my life. What does family mean? When family could stab you in the back, when family could get up and leave, just like anybody else on the streets. Just like you could have a best friend and they can stab you in the back. Somebody who you're not related to, somebody who you formed a relationship with, formed a bond with, and then they do something to hurt you to a point of no, or where you feel like it's no return. So what is family to, like, explain family to somebody who's been backstabbed by family. You explain that. So that's what it is to me. That's how I feel about it, where people have been blood related, dad included, and you go through something with that person, or that person betrays your whole family. But you're supposed to be like, oh, but that's your dad. Oh, but that's you're supposed to have a soft spot for them because that's blood. He brought me into this world, and that's about it. He brought me into the world, and that's about it. That's about it. So what is family? You tell me what blood is. You tell me how blood's thicker than water. It is what it is. I got great people in my life. This is the Cool Hand Podcast. Not to be too hard. I don't know how this is gonna sound when I watch this back, but this is probably the most honest conversation I've had with anybody. And the thing is, there is no one in here. I'm essentially talking to myself. So Yeah, this was a pretty cool experience, but yeah, uh, this is the Cool Hand Podcast. If you watched it this far, thank you, because most of the time it's about music, and this was kind of about music, but more so about like a real life experience with me and how, the absence of a father, blah 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 blah, all that stuff that we talked. So we'll get back to the music and stuff like that. This is the Cool Hand Podcast. I'm your host. My name is Quentin. Today, this is Quentin. My name is Quentin. A lot of times, I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, my name's Quentin when I communicate with some people who I like either like am in communication with regarding the podcast. My first name isn't on my Instagram page, and I usually just introduce myself as Q on the podcast. This is the Cool Hand Podcast. My name is Quentin, and that's it. Easy.